They had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. Their empire stretched across 1,000 worlds, and their queens were treated like gods. No one touched them. No one came close to them without permission. They had guards who were born and bred for war, soldiers whose families had protected royalty for hundreds of generations. So when Queen asked for a human bodyguard, everyone thought she had lost her mind. The High Council met in secret to discuss her request. They sat in a room made of living crystal, their tall blue bodies glowing softly in the dim light. Their silver eyes were full of worry and confusion. "She wants a human," said Lord, the oldest member of the council. "A human to protect her." "Perhaps she is testing us," said Lady Myra, her voice cold. "Perhaps this is some kind of joke." "The Queen does not joke," said another. "She is serious. She has already sent word to Earth." The council members looked at each other. Humans were strange creatures, small, weak. They lived short lives and died easily. Their bodies broke, their bones snapped, and they had no natural weapons. No claws, no venom, no armor. They were soft pink things that should have died out long ago. But they had not died out. That was the problem. They had been watching humans for 50 years, ever since first contact. What they saw confused them and scared them in equal measure. Humans fought wars over ideas. They died for strangers. They kept getting up no matter how many times they were knocked down. There was something broken inside them, something that made them ignore pain and fear and common sense. The council did not understand it, but Queen did. 3 weeks later, a human ship arrived at the. It carried diplomats, trade officials, and one former soldier named. Was 34 years old. He had served in the Republic Marines for 12 years before a piece of metal took his left eye on a moon whose name he could barely remember. He walked with a small limp from an old injury that never healed right. His face was covered in scars, and his hair was starting to turn gray at the edges. He was not tall. He was not strong. When the guards saw him step off the ship, they almost laughed. "This is the human warrior," asked Commander, the head of the Queen's Guard. She stood 8 feet tall, her body built for killing, her reflexes 3 times faster than any human. "He looks like he would break if I touched him." "Be respectful," said the diplomat beside her. "He is a guest." "He is an insult," said quietly. Heard her. His hearing was still good, even if his eye was not, but he said nothing. He had learned long ago that words meant less than actions. He would show them what he was, or he would die trying. Either way, he would not waste breath on arguments. The palace was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. It rose from the ground like a dream, all flowing curves and impossible angles. The walls were made of crystal that sang when the wind touched it. The floors were soft as water but solid as stone. Everything glowed with soft light that seemed to come from nowhere and everywhere at once. Felt like a dirty boot in a clean house, but he kept his back straight and his face calm. He had been in worse places. Queen received him in her throne room. She sat on a chair made of living crystal that grew from the floor, and she wore robes of silk so fine they looked like captured moonlight. Her skin was pale blue, like the sky just before dawn. Her eyes were silver, deep and old and full of secrets. She was 7 feet tall, thin and graceful, and she moved like water when she stood up. The guards around her tensed as she walked down the steps toward the human. "Your Majesty," said one of her advisors, "please let us bring him to you. You should not." "Be quiet," she said softly, and the advisor fell silent. She stopped in front of and looked down at him. He looked back up at her. Neither of them blinked. "You are," she said, "the one who survived Station." His heart skipped. He had not expected her to know about that. Station was a small battle in a small war that most people had already forgotten, but apparently not everyone. "Yes, Your Majesty," he said. 14 days, she continued. No food, no water, no reinforcements. You held a building against 200 enemy soldiers with only 6 people. When your ammunition ran out, you fought with knives. When your knives broke, you fought with your hands. You carried 3 wounded soldiers through enemy lines. You walked for 2 days with a broken leg. I was just doing my job, said. No, she shook her head slowly. You were doing what humans do. You refused to die. Behind her, the advisors and guards exchanged glances. They did not understand what was happening. This human was nothing special. He was small and damaged. Why was the queen looking at him like he was made of gold? But understood something they did not. She had spent years studying humans, reading their history, watching their wars. She knew what they were capable of. Not their technology, not their ships, not their weapons. Those things were ordinary. Every species had them. What made humans different was something inside them, a fire that would not go out, a stubbornness that bordered on insanity. They did not know when to quit. They did not know how to give up. They would fight until their bodies stopped working, and sometimes even after that. Queen had enemies, old ones, powerful ones. Half the noble houses wanted her dead because she was trying to change things, trying to free the servant classes, trying to end traditions that had lasted for thousands of years. Her own guards might be loyal or they might be bought. She could trust no one. But she could trust a human, because humans did not break. They did not bend. They did not sell their loyalty for money or power. Once a human decided to protect something, they would die before they stopped. I have chosen you, she said too, because I need someone who will not run, someone who will not break, someone who will stand between me and death, not because they are ordered to, but because that is who they are. Looked at her for a long moment. He saw the weight on her shoulders. He saw the loneliness in her eyes. He saw a woman who was trying to do the right thing in a world that wanted to destroy her for it. I understand, Your Majesty, he said. You will probably die, she warned him. My enemies are many and they are patient. Everyone dies, said simply, but not everyone gets to die for something that matters. Something flickered in the queen's silver eyes, something that might have been hope. Then welcome to my service of Earth. Try not to die too quickly. I'll do my best, Your Majesty. Behind them, Commander watched with narrowed eyes. She did not trust this human. She did not understand why the queen had brought him here. But she would be watching. And if he failed, if he showed even a moment of weakness, she would be there to remind everyone why humans did not belong among the stars. She did not know yet how wrong she was, but she would learn. They all would. 6 months passed like water through fingers. Learned the palace the way a soldier learns a battlefield. He memorized every hallway, every door, every shadow where an enemy might hide. He learned which servants could be trusted and which ones had eyes that moved too much. He learned to see the tiny changes in their skin color that showed their feelings. Blue meant calm, purple meant fear, red meant anger, and when their skin went pale, almost white, it meant they were ready to kill. The court was a dangerous place. Everyone smiled, but no one meant it. The nobles played games with words and looks and small gestures that could destroy careers or end lives. They were polite to the queen's face and plotted against her when she turned away. Watched them all with his one good eye, and he remembered everything. Commander was still his biggest problem. She hated him, not secretly, not quietly. She hated him openly, and she made sure he knew it every single day. You are slow, she told him during their first training session. She held a practice sword in her hand, and she moved like lightning. Before could blink, she had knocked his weapon away and pressed her blade to his throat. Weak, soft, a child could defeat you. Picked up his weapon and faced her again. Again, he said. She beat him. He got up. She beat him again. He got up again. This happened 47 times in one day. Each time was slower, more tired, more hurt. But each time he stood back up and raised his weapon. Why do you keep getting up? Demanded. Her voice was angry, but there was something else in it, something like confusion. You cannot win. You know you cannot win. Why do you keep fighting? Because getting up is free, said. And I'm not out of free things yet. Did not understand, but she remembered his words. The weeks turned into months, stopped laughing when she beat him. She started asking questions instead. She wanted to know about human history, about the wars they had fought, about the enemies they had faced. She wanted to understand why humans kept fighting even when winning was impossible. "Your people," she said one evening after a training session that had left with 3 cracked ribs, "they fought a war against an enemy with better weapons, better ships, better everything. They were outnumbered 10-1. They should have surrendered." "The Titan War," said, wrapping bandages around his chest. "I lost my brother in that war." "But you won. How? It makes no sense." Was quiet for a moment. He thought about his brother, about the last time he had seen him, about the message he had received 6 months later. "We regret to inform you." "We won because we didn't stop," he said finally. "The enemy expected us to give up. They expected us to be reasonable. They didn't understand that humans don't work that way. We kept fighting when we should have died. We kept attacking when we should have run. We made the war so expensive, so painful, that the enemy decided it wasn't worth it anymore." "That is insane," said. "Yes," agreed, "but it worked." Something changed between them after that. Was still hard on him, still pushed him until his body screamed for mercy. But there was respect in her eyes now. A small respect, careful and new, like a flower growing in rocky soil. She was beginning to understand. The assassination attempt came during the Festival of Starlight. The festival was the biggest celebration of the year. Thousands of nobles filled the grand hall, their bioluminescent skin painting the air with colors. Music played from instruments that sang directly to the heart. Food and drink flowed like rivers, and everyone was happy. Everyone was distracted. Queen sat on her throne, beautiful and calm, receiving the well wishes of her people. Stood at the base of the throne, watching the crowd. His eye moved constantly, looking for anything wrong, anything out of place. He almost missed it. There was a servant near the side of the hall. She had worked in the palace for 30 years, a quiet woman who had never caused trouble. But tonight, something was different. Her skin was too pale. Her hands were shaking slightly. And her eyes, her silver eyes, were fixed on the queen with a terrible intensity. Started moving before his brain caught up with his body. The servant pulled something from her robes. It was a neural disruptor, a weapon designed to kill instantly by overloading their nervous system. On a human, it would cause pain beyond imagination, but it was not meant for a human. It was meant for the queen. The guards were too far away, was on the other side of the hall. No one could reach the servant in time. No one except. He ran. His old injuries screamed at him. His bad leg nearly gave out, but he ran. The world seemed to slow down around him. He could see the servant raising the weapon, see her finger tightening on the trigger, see the queen turning toward the threat with widening eyes. Hit the servant like a freight train. His shoulder slammed into her body just as she fired. The shot went wide, but not wide enough. It hit in the right shoulder. The pain was unlike anything he had ever felt. Neural disruptors were designed for biology, and on a human the effect was 100 times worse. Every nerve in his body caught fire. His muscles locked up. His vision went white with agony. But he did not let go. He held the servant down with his weight, his hands locked around her arms, his body refusing to obey his brain's desperate commands to release. The guards arrived seconds later, pulling the servant away, shouting orders, calling for medics. Collapsed on the floor, twitching, unable to speak, unable to see. But he was alive, and so was the queen. Queen knelt beside him. Her face was pale, her eyes wet. She took his hand in hers, ignoring the shocked gasps of the nobles around them. A queen did not touch servants. A queen did not kneel on the floor, but did not care about rules in that moment. "Why?" she whispered. "You could have died, you should have died." Managed to open his eye. Through the haze of pain, he saw her face, saw the tears on her cheeks, saw the fear and gratitude and something else that he could not name. "Just doing my job," he whispered back. "Your Majesty." Then the darkness took him. He woke 3 days later in the medical wing, was sitting beside his bed, her silver eyes watching him. She did not say anything for a long time. She just looked at him, this small damaged human who had done the impossible. "The doctors say you should be dead," she said finally. "The neural disruptor should have stopped your heart, but it did not." "Humans are stubborn," said. His voice was rough, his throat dry. "Yes," nodded slowly. "I am beginning to understand that." She stood up and walked to the door, but before she left, she turned back. The servant talked. She was paid by the House of Falling Stars. They have been planning this for years, and they are not finished. The Queen asked. "Safe because of you," paused. "I was wrong about you, human. I thought you were weak, but you are not weak. You are something else entirely, something I do not have a word for." She left before he could respond, but lay in the darkness and smiled. He had a word for it. The word was human. And he was just getting started. Recovery was slow and painful. The doctors kept in the medical wing for 3 weeks, running tests, taking samples, shaking their heads in confusion. His body had been torn apart by the neural disruptor, but somehow it was putting itself back together. The healers had never seen anything like it. "Your cells," the head doctor said, studying a screen full of data, "they repair themselves, even when they should not, even when the damage is too great, they just keep trying." "Human biology," said with a weak shrug. "We're too stupid to know when we're supposed to die." The doctor did not laugh. She just looked at him with something like fear in her silver eyes. When was finally allowed to leave the medical wing, he found the palace changed. Guards watched him as he walked past, but not with suspicion anymore, with respect, with something close to awe. Word had spread about what he had done, how he had taken a shot meant for the Queen, how he had held on even when his body was failing. The nobles still whispered behind his back, but now their whispers were different. They were afraid of him, not because he was strong or fast or powerful, but because they did not understand him. They could not predict what he would do, and that made him dangerous. Queen called him to her private chambers on his first day back. She was sitting by a window that looked out over the city, her blue skin glowing softly in the evening light. When she saw him, she stood up quickly, then seemed to catch herself and slow down. She said, "You should be resting." "I've rested enough, Your Majesty. I heard there was trouble." The Queen's face grew serious. She gestured for him to sit, and he did, though it hurt. Everything still hurt. "The House of Falling Stars," she said. "They have hired the Void Claw." Felt his blood turn cold. Every soldier in the galaxy knew about the Void Claw. They were the most deadly assassins in existence, a guild of killers so skilled that they had never failed a contract. Their leader was a creature called the Nameless, and no one who had seen him had ever lived to describe him. When asked, "My coronation anniversary, 30 days from now. Our intelligence says they will strike during the ceremony. Maximum visibility, maximum embarrassment for my supporters." Was quiet for a moment. He stared out the window at the beautiful alien city, thinking about what she had just told him. The Void Claw, 30 days, the most important day of the calendar. "Why are you telling me this?" he asked finally. "You could order me to leave, send me back to Earth. This is not my fight." Queen turned to face him. Her silver eyes were deep and sad and full of something he could not name. "Because you have already bled for me," she said. "You have earned the right to know, and you have earned the right to choose. If you want to leave, I will not stop you. No one will think less of you." Laughed. It hurt his chest, but he laughed anyway. "With respect, Your Majesty, I already made my choice. I made it when I stepped off that ship 6 months ago. I'm not leaving now just because things got hard." Something flickered in the Queen's eyes. Relief maybe, or gratitude, or both. "The Void Claw has never failed," she warned him. Neither have humans, not when it counts. The next 30 days were the most intense of his life. He worked to rebuild the palace security from the ground up. They studied the building, found the weak points, the blind spots, the places where an assassin might hide. They changed the guard schedules, added new patrols, installed sensors that could detect even the smallest movement. But knew it would not be enough. The Void Claw was not just another group of killers. They were legends. They had toppled governments, destroyed entire noble houses, killed targets who were protected by armies. No security system in the galaxy could stop them. So decided to try something different. He started training the guards in human tactics, not the elegant, formal combat styles that they had learned since birth, but ugly, dirty, desperate fighting. The kind of fighting that humans did when they were cornered. The kind of fighting that broke rules and ignored honor and did whatever was necessary to survive. The guards hated it at first. They were proud warriors trained in ancient traditions. They did not want to fight like animals, but made them listen. "This human took a shot that would have killed any of us," she told them, her voice hard. "He held onto an assassin while his body was dying. He has earned the right to teach us. So shut up and learn." They learned. Slowly, grudgingly, but they learned. They learned to throw dust in their enemies' eyes. They learned to fake weakness to create openings. They learned to fight without honor, because honor meant nothing if you were dead. On the 20th day, called a meeting with the senior guards. He had a plan, and they needed to hear it. "The Void Claw will come," he said, standing before a map of the throne room. "We cannot stop them from getting in. They are too good. Our sensors will not detect them. Our guards will not see them. They will be invisible until the moment they strike." "Then how do we stop them?" asked one of the guards. "We don't try to stop them from getting in. We make them come to us." Frowned, explain. Pointed to the throne. "On the night of the ceremony, the queen will sit here, and I will stand here at the base of the throne, alone." The room went silent. "Alone," said, "you want to face the Void Claw alone?" "Yes, the guards will be hidden throughout the hall, ready to respond. But the queen's immediate space will be empty except for me. Just one human with a blade and a gun." "That is suicide." "Maybe," smiled, a hard smile that did not reach his eye. "But the Void Claw is proud. They like a challenge. If they see me standing there alone protecting the queen, they will not be able to resist. They will show themselves. And when they do, we will have a chance." "A chance?" shook her head. "The Nameless has killed gods. What chance do you think you have?" "The same chance I had at Station. The same chance I had when I jumped in front of that disruptor." Looked at her. "I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to buy time. Every second I stay standing is a second for our guards to respond. Every moment I keep fighting is a moment the queen stays alive." The room was quiet. The guards looked at each other, then at. "You will die," said softly. "Probably," nodded, "but she will live. That's the only thing that matters." Stared at him for a long time. Then slowly she nodded. "Then we will make sure your death means something," she said. "We will be ready. When the Nameless shows himself, we will be there." "Good," turned back to the map. "Now let's go over the plan again. We have 10 days left, and we're going to need every single one of them." The storm was coming, and intended to meet it standing up. The night arrived like a held breath. The grand sanctuary was filled with thousands of nobles, their bodies glowing with soft bioluminescent light. Colors shifted and danced across the high crystal walls. Musicians played instruments that seemed to sing directly into the soul, filling the air with sounds that were more feeling than music. The celebration of Queen's coronation anniversary was the most important event in the calendar, and everyone who mattered was here. Everyone, including those who wanted the Queen dead, stood at the base of the throne exactly as he had planned. He wore his Republic Marine formal uniform, cleaned and pressed, the medals on his chest gleaming. His plasma pistol was at his hip, A ceremonial blade hung at his side. His one good eye moved constantly across the crowd, searching for danger. Behind him, Queen sat on her throne of living crystal, beautiful and serene. She wore robes of pure white that seemed to glow from within. Her silver eyes were calm but had learned to read her. She was afraid. She was just too proud to show it. Around them, the throne area was empty. No guards, no servants, no one except a human and his queen. His voice crackled through the tiny device hidden in his ear. All teams in position. Sensors show nothing. Thermal imaging negative. If the void claw is here, they are invisible. They're here, said quietly. I can feel it. You can feel it. Something my brother taught me. When death is close, you can feel it in your bones. It's like a cold wind that doesn't touch your skin. Was silent for a moment. Humans are strange. Yes, but we're useful. The ceremony continued. Speeches were made. Songs were sung. Nobles approached the throne one by one to offer their respects to the queen. Watched each one of them looking for the tiny signs of betrayal. A hand that moved too fast. Eyes that looked the wrong way. A heartbeat that was too quick or too slow. Nothing, nothing, nothing. And then the lights went out. The darkness lasted only 3 seconds, but in those 3 seconds something changed. When the lights returned, there was a figure standing in the center of the hall. The crowd screamed and scattered, nobles running in every direction, their glowing skin flashing with panic colors, but did not move. He had been waiting for this. The Nameless was shorter than expected, maybe 6 feet tall, wrapped in cloth that seemed to drink in light itself. The fabric was so dark that it hurt to look at, like a hole cut in the world. There was no face visible under the hood, just shadow that went on forever. The assassin walked toward the throne with slow, confident steps. The fleeing nobles parted around him like water around a stone. No one tried to stop him. No one was brave enough. Drew his blade and stepped forward. Stop, he said. The Nameless paused. The dark hood tilted slightly, as if the creature inside was curious. Human. The voice was like silk dragged over broken glass, beautiful and terrible at the same time. Stand aside. My contract is not with you. Then you have a problem, raised his blade, because you're not getting past me. A sound came from under the hood. It might have been a laugh. I have killed kings. I have killed emperors. I have killed beings that were as gods. What are you, little human? What makes you think you can stand against me? Smiled. It was the same smile he had worn at station, surrounded by enemies, out of ammunition, knowing he was going to die. It was not a happy smile. It was the smile of a man who had nothing left to lose. I'm the guy who doesn't know when to quit. The Nameless moved. Had fought warriors. He had trained against the best soldiers the Dominion had to offer. He had spent years learning to read opponents, to predict their movements, to react before his brain even knew what was happening. None of it prepared him for this. The assassin was not fast. That word was too simple. The Nameless was like water, like smoke, like a shadow that moved between heartbeats. A blade appeared from nowhere, dark as the cloth that wrapped the creature, and it whispered towards throat. He blocked it barely. The impact nearly shattered his arm. The Nameless paused again. That tiny hesitation, that moment of surprise, was the only sign that had done something unexpected. Interesting, the assassin said. Then the real fight began. Could not win. He knew that from the first exchange. The Nameless was faster, stronger, more skilled than anything he had ever faced. Every attack came from an impossible angle. Every defense left him open to 3 more strikes. The assassin was playing with him, testing him, curious about how long this little human could last. So stop trying to win. He started trying to survive. He fought dirty. When the Nameless struck high, he dove low. When the assassin expected him to block, he attacked instead. He threw his ceremonial cape at the creature's face. He kicked dust from the floor into the air. He used every dirty trick he had learned in a lifetime of fighting against enemies who were stronger and faster. Behind him, he heard his voice in his ear. "Guards are moving. 30 seconds." 30 seconds. He just had to survive 30 seconds. The Nameless seemed to sense that time was running out. The attacks became faster, more brutal. A cut opened on his cheek, another on his arm. His bad leg screamed as he dodged a strike that would have cut him in half. 20 seconds. His plasma pistol came up, firing 3 quick shots. The Nameless dodged all of them, moving between the beams like they were standing still. But the dodging bought 2 more seconds of life. 15 seconds. A blade sliced across his chest, cutting through his uniform, drawing a line of fire across his ribs. He staggered but did not fall. Would not fall. The Queen was behind him. Falling was not an option. 10 seconds. The Nameless moved in for the kill. The dark blade rose, aimed its heart, and there was no way to block it, no way to dodge it, no way to survive. So did the only thing he could. He stepped forward into the strike. The blade pierced his side, sliding between his ribs, missing his heart by inches. The pain was enormous, overwhelming, the kind of pain that should have made him collapse. But instead of falling, wrapped his hand around the blade, trapping it, trapping the assassin who held it. Blood poured between his fingers. His vision was going gray at the edges, but he had the Nameless. He had him. With his other hand, pressed his plasma pistol against the assassin's chest. "Yield," he gasped. The dark hood tilted. "If you fire, you die too. The blade is in your organs." "I know." Smile was bloody, wild, utterly human. "But she lives, that's all that matters." For a long moment, nothing moved. The hall was silent. Thousands of beings held their breath, watching a small, damaged human hold death itself at gunpoint. Then the guards arrived. Was first her weapon raised, her silver eyes burning with fury and fear. "Release him," she shouted. "Release him now." The Nameless did not move. The dark hood stayed fixed on his face, studying him, measuring him. "You would die," the assassin said softly. "You would die to take me with you." Without hesitation, said. Another long silence. Then slowly, the Nameless released the blade and stepped back. The dark figure held up empty hands and the guards surrounded him, weapons ready. Felt the strength leave his body. The blade was still in his side and he knew he should not pull it out, knew that pulling it out would only make the bleeding worse. But he did not care. He was so tired. The last thing he saw before the darkness took him was Queen's face, pale with fear, beautiful in the crystal light. The last thing he felt was her hands catching him as he fell. The darkness was warm and quiet, floated in it like a leaf on still water, feeling nothing, thinking nothing. Part of him knew he should be fighting, should be clawing his way back to the light, but another part of him was so tired, so very tired. He had been fighting for so long, first the wars on distant moons, then station, then the palace, the training, the constant watching and waiting. Maybe it was time to rest. Maybe he had earned that. But then he heard a voice like silver bells, like crystals singing in the wind. "Please," the voice said, "please do not leave me." And remembered why he had been fighting. He opened his eye. The medical wing was quiet and dark. Machines hummed softly around him, keeping his broken body alive. Everything hurt. His side where the blade had been. His chest where the cuts were healing. His hand, which was wrapped in so many bandages it looked like a white ball. But he was alive. Queen was sitting beside his bed. Her silver eyes were red from crying, and her blue skin was pale with exhaustion. She had been there for a long time, he could tell. The chair beside his bed had been made comfortable with pillows and blankets. "Your Majesty," whispered. His voice was rough, barely working. "You should be resting." "So should you," she laughed, but it came out more like a sob. "The doctors said you should be dead, again. They said no one survives wounds like that. They said it was impossible." Humans are stubborn. Yes, she reached out and took his hand, the one that was not bandaged. Her touch was warm and gentle. Yes, you are. For a while, neither of them spoke. They just sat together in the quiet darkness, listening to the machines hum, feeling each other's presence. The Nameless said finally, "What happened?" "He left." Queen's voice was strange, full of wonder and confusion. "He declared the contract void. He said the House of Falling Stars had failed to mention that their target was under human protection. He said the Void Claw does not accept contracts against humans." "Frowned since when?" "Since now, apparently." The Queen shook her head slowly. "I do not fully understand it, but I think you scared them. Not because you almost killed him, but because you were willing to die just to take him with you. That's not scary, that's just human. To you maybe, but to them." She looked at him with those deep silver eyes. "To them, it is terrifying. They have killed many species, but they have never met one that would die smiling just to hurt them back. That is not a war they want to fight." Thought about that for a moment. He thought about his brother who had died in the Titan War. He thought about his friends at Station who had fought until their bodies stopped working. He thought about all the humans who had ever stood up against impossible odds, knowing they would probably lose, fighting anyway. "We're not trying to be scary," he said. "We're just trying to protect the things we care about." "And that is what makes you scary." The Queen smiled, a sad and beautiful smile. "You do not fight to win. You fight because some things are worth dying for, and no one in the galaxy knows how to defeat that." The days that followed were strange and wonderful. Recovered slowly. His body was more synthetic than organic now, the doctors said. They had replaced damaged organs, rebuilt shattered bones, repaired nerves that should have been beyond repair. He would carry the scars forever, but he would live. While he healed, the galaxy changed around him. The House of Falling Stars was destroyed. Their allies fled or surrendered. The nobles who had supported them were stripped of their titles and exiled to distant worlds. Queen's position was stronger than ever, and her reforms began to move forward again. But that was not the biggest change. Word of what had done spread across the Dominion. The story grew with each telling, becoming legend. A human had faced the Void Claw alone. A human had survived the Nameless. A human had stood at the foot of the throne, bleeding and broken, and had not taken a single step back. Other queens began requesting human guards. Trade agreements with Earth accelerated, and a new phrase entered the language: human at your back. It meant someone you could trust absolutely, someone who would never run, someone who would stand with you until the end. 3 months after the assassination attempt was well enough to walk through the palace gardens. Queen walked beside him, her robes trailing through the crystal flowers that grew along the paths. The twin suns were setting, painting the sky in shades of purple and gold. "Your contract is complete," she said softly. "More than complete. You have done everything that was asked of you and more. If you want to return to Earth, I will arrange it. You would be a hero there. They would give you everything you ever wanted." Looked at the alien sky, at the strange flowers, at the woman beside him who had become something he had not expected. A friend, a purpose, a reason to keep fighting. "Do you want me to leave?" he asked. "No." The word came out quickly, honestly, without hesitation. "No, I do not want you to leave, but I will not force you to stay. You have already given me more than I had any right to ask." Was quiet for a moment. He thought about Earth, about the small apartment where he had lived alone, about the empty days and emptier nights. He thought about the future he had expected, quiet, lonely, forgotten. Then he thought about this place, about who had become something like a friend, about the guards who now looked at him with respect instead of contempt, about the Queen who had seen something in him that he had not known was there. "I think I'll stay," he said, "if you'll have me." Queen stopped walking. She turned to face him, and in her silver eyes he saw something that made his heart beat faster. "I would like that," she said softly. "I would like that very much." They stood together in the fading light, the human and the queen, watching the twin suns sink below the horizon. Around them, the crystal flowers began to glow, filling the garden with soft blue light. "Can I ask you something?" said. "Anything." "On that night when you knew you could not win, when death was certain, what did you feel?" Considered the question. He thought about that moment, standing before the nameless, knowing that each second might be his last. "Fear," he said honestly. "Pain, the usual things." He paused. "But mostly, I felt grateful. Grateful that I got to be the one standing there, that it was me between you and the dark instead of someone who might have stepped aside." He looked at her. "That's what it means to be human. We don't fight because we think we'll win. We fight because some things are worth dying for." Queen of the third house, reformer and ruler and the most powerful woman in the Dominion, took her human bodyguard's hand. "Then I am grateful too," she said. "Grateful that of all the species in the galaxy, it was humanity that answered when I called." The stars came out, cold and eternal, filling the alien sky with light. And somewhere in the darkness, a legend was being born. Not a legend of a warrior who could not be defeated, but a legend of a species that simply refused to stop. They had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. But on this night, standing in a garden of crystal flowers, they began to understand something new. They were not alone anymore. And that made all the difference.